I never expected my life would change when the rancher's dying wife took my hand and whispered, "You're the only one who can hear them." I was knee-deep in the muck of my life, barely scraping by, when I stumbled upon that old ranch. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the creaking barn. Dust danced like ghosts in the fading light. My heart raced. I had come for a job, but I was about to enter a world twisted with secrets. That day started like any other. I clutched my last ragged $10 bill, yearning for hope. I found myself in front of a great wooden door, aged and cracked, like the very life it sheltered. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of hay and something else, something sweet yet decaying. I could hear the low moan of a breeze, as if it carried whispered secrets. Then there was her, the rancher's wife. Emaciated, pale, yet her eyes glowed like molten gold. She drew me close, her hands trembling, cold as ice. "I need you to listen for them," she rasped. "They speak in voices of sorrow. They want rest." I didn't understand. My pulse thundered. Was she delirious? The room grew heavy with silence. I noticed shadows shifting against the walls, flickering like candles, whispering without words. I tried to shake it off, an old woman's ramblings. But deep down, dread coiled in my stomach like a serpent. What could she mean? Her husband, a giant of a man, with a voice as rough as gravel, stood off to the side, his face clouded with both anger and fear. "She shouldn't be talking like this," he thundered, his words forcing the air from my lungs. Yet, I was captivated by her frail grip. As I contemplated the weight of her words, screams of anguish echoed in my mind, fragments of voices that did not belong to anyone present. "You must help them," she insisted, her grip tightening, nails digging into my skin. Suddenly, the floorboards creaked ominously, and I felt the room reel around me. What was I getting into? Who were they? My vision blurred. Amplified by the urgency in her eyes, I saw desperation, a plea woven through the threads of her frail existence. I wanted to turn and flee, but something deeper rooted me to that spot, a connection that felt like destiny. And then, just as suddenly as it all began, she stopped. Her eyes glazed over, and she slumped back, her breath a mere whisper. "You must listen," she exhaled, fading quickly into the silence. I stood frozen, a storm within, heart racing, a mix of fear and anticipation. How was I supposed to listen to voices of the dead? Would I really be the only one to hear them? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun set deeper, casting long shadows through the barn, filling the corners with a darkness that felt alive. With the weight of the woman's words pressing heavily on my mind, I found myself unable to move. The old rancher stood unmoving, absorbing the reality of his wife's decline. The air crackled with tension, charged, raw, desperate. Finally, breaking the cocoon of silence, he stepped forward, his voice gruff but unexpectedly soft. "You're not going to run, are you? Not after she chose you?" The question hung between us, heavy with implications that I wasn't ready to face. I swallowed hard, nodding as if agreeing to the unspoken contract he proposed, a pact sealed with fear and the unsteady flicker of hope, but how could I possibly help? Voices of the forgotten? The thought startled me. Yet, there was something in his gaze, a flicker of admiration, perhaps a plea, so I didn't retreat. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He led me to a small room adjacent to the barn. A scattered array of dusty heirlooms and faded photographs lined the shelves, each one a lingering memory of lives once vibrant. I felt swallowed by time. These are the stories, he said, gesturing to the relics. Each piece holds a piece of the past. They're trapped here, like her. Suddenly, a soft rustle broke the stillness. I turned, half anticipating a spectral figure to emerge from the shadows. My heart thudded violently as a chill crept up my spine. Instead, it was a small journal, its leather binding cracked and well-worn, as if it were a sentinel of sorrows untold. It belonged to my daughter, the rancher said softly, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. She went missing years ago. A wave of recognition surged through me. You think she's trying to reach you? I ventured, unsure if the words would ignite hope or bury us deeper in despair. I don't know, he breathed, that rough exterior crumbling for a moment. But if that woman was right, if you can hear them, he trailed off, the raw vulnerability hanging thickly in the air. A glimmer of courage flickered within me. If this was the key to understanding the burden that haunted this ranch, I had to be brave, even if it was just for him. With trembling hands, I picked up the journal and began to flick through the pages. Each entry was a mix of joy, pain, and haunting nostalgia. A teenaged girl's dreams and aspirations laid bare. But then the entries shifted, became terse, dark. Anger seeped through the pages, a palpable fear that made my stomach turn. I felt a presence grow around me, a tightening in my chest, and as I read line after line, the atmosphere hummed with unspoken grief. I can feel her, I gasped, words spilling forth like a river breaking its dam. She's angry, hurt. She wants you to know she didn't just vanish. The rancher's breath hitched, his face twisted in disbelief interspersed with hope. You think she's still here? That's when I heard a faint sound, like the whisper of wind through leaves, a name my own. Confusion clawed at the edges of my mind. A shadow flickered in my peripheral vision, and I turned to see the barn door swinging open softly, revealing a specter of the pasta young girl, bright-eyed but faded like an old photograph. She stood there, ethereal, with just the trace of a smile on her lips. Your namesake, the rancher uttered, where finally the pieces of the puzzle began to snap into place. The girl lingered, extending her hand as if reaching out to bridge an infinite chasm, but just as I felt that connection deepening, a violent gust of wind burst through, snuffing the light. Shadows twisted around me, plunging me into darkness. A familiar voice, urgent and full of warning, echoed in the wind. Don't trust them. My pulse quickened, fear cascading through me. Who were they? What danger loomed before me? And then the horrifying realization struck: what if the voices I was meant to hear were not guiding me, but luring me into a darkness I could not escape? The rancher's eyes widened, reflecting a fear I now shared. I had stepped into the murky waters of secrets and unfulfilled promises. As the silhouette of the girl began to dissolve, I felt my hope shift into trepidation. Could my newfound ability be a curse? In that moment, with shadows swirling and an unseen threat looming, I realized I was standing at the very edge of a precipice. Would I embrace the burden of hearing their voices, or was this darkness meant to swallow me whole? The rancher caught my eye, and together we faced an uncertain future, a tangle of spirits, secrets, and revelations that would both change our lives forever. The grip of the shadows tightened around us, a suffocating blanket that threatened to swallow all light. My heart raced, every pulse echoing the weight of doubt cascading through my mind. The ethereal girl had only just appeared, a fleeting glimpse into a past rich with love and sorrow, and now the darkness consumed her like a wisp of smoke. The rancher's expression morphed from shock to determination, a flicker of resolve amidst the chaos. What do you see? He asked, his voice steadier than I felt inside. I had no words, only the fear brewing in the pit of my stomach, a gnawing knot that grew tighter with every beat. I can hear her, I stammered, navigating through the fog of fear surrounding me. But it's overwhelming. She's lost, but she wants to tell you something. I can't make out what it is. He stepped closer, his presence a grounding force against the storm swirling around us. Focus, he urged gently, his hand resting on my shoulder like an anchor. Listen to the whispers. Sometimes they don't come from words but feelings. Inhaling sharply, I closed my eyes, seeking solace within myself. The swirling darkness was alive, pulsing with energy, and I struggled to filter through the confusion. The urgent warnings mingled with a deep, yearning sadness. Somewhere beneath the layers of anguish, there was an echo of a child's laughter, a fleeting memory that pierced the despair. Don't trust them. The words were crisp, cutting through the mist like a knife. Panic surged anew as I fought to comprehend the warning, the weight of the unknown bearing down on me. Who? I gasped, reopening my eyes, desperate for clarity, desperate for answers. The rancher's gaze was fixated on something beyond me, his eyes narrowing as if he could see into the shadows. Maybe it's not just her, he murmured, glancing around. Maybe others linger here too. Then it struck me, a sudden illumination amidst the dread, a realization that echoed in my mind. What if the other voices, the ones urging me to be cautious, were not just figments of fear? What if they were the very souls bound to this ranch, yearning for release yet trapped in an eternal limbo? The air thickened with tension as I steeled myself, lacing my fingers against the journal. We need to listen to them all, I breathed, the flicker of courage igniting within me again. Every voice deserves to be heard. We moved in tentative synchrony, navigating through the oppressive ambience. Shadows clung to us, sensing our intention, threatening to tighten their grasp. The rancher lifted his lantern, its flame flickering bravely amidst the whirlpool of darkness, casting beams of light that seemed to repel despair, if only temporarily. As we ventured further into the barn, a soft sobbing trickled through the silence. It was a melody of mourning, echoing off the walls, as melancholic as a lullaby sung to a forgotten child. The rancher's face contorted with recognition, a mixture of anguish and disbelief. That sound, it's her, he whispered, longing etched across his features. Your daughter, I reassured him, feeling a surge of compassion swell within me. She's here. She's reaching out. The path forward unfurled before us, a blossoming sense of purpose igniting amidst the trepidation. We followed the sound, the morning melody weaving through the fabric of time, enveloping us in its embrace. And there, near the corner of the barn, stood a glimpse of the pot, an old rocking chair creaking with the weight of memories. It swayed gently back and forth, the air thick with echoes of laughter juxtaposed with sorrowful cries. I knelt beside the rocking chair, placing my palm on the worn wood. I can feel her, I murmured, eyes closing once more as I tried to channel the voice that echoed cross-generational pain. She wants you to remember her joy, to carry forth her spirit in your heart. Suddenly, the barn shook as a wail of desperation pierced the air. A cacophony of voices bled forth, trailing into the darkness. Help us! They cried, resonating within the crevices of my mind, blurring the boundaries between this moment and the lives trapped beyond our reach. The rancher faltered, his breath hitching in understanding. They all need us. His eyes widened, realization dawning. It's not just about her anymore. It's about all of them. But as our combined determination solidified, another gust of wind howled through the barn, scattering dust like whispers of bygone Talisa, spectral warning echoing in the air. Before I could process the immediacy of it, shadows surged around us, coiling like serpents ready to strike. Run. The urgency in his voice propelled me into action. I turned, dragging him along as we stumbled through the depths of the barn, racing against the tide of darkness that threatened to overtake us. The cries of the trapped souls intertwined with our frantic breaths, a crescendo of desperation mixing with the longing that filled the space between worlds. And then, just as we reached the exit, a chilling laughter echoed from behind us, a sound dripping with malice and despair. It reverberated throughout the wooden beams, sending a shiver down my spine as I turned back, eyes wide against the oppressive darkness swirling within. Did you really think you could set them free? The laughter taunted, a sinister whisper that crawled under my skin. A figure emerged, shrouded in shadow, eyes glowing with an unholy light that emanated an overwhelming sense of dread. My heart thundered, realization dawning anew. We were not merely battling for lost souls, we were pitted against something far more ancient, a force that thrived on chaos and despair. With the rancher's grip tightening around my wrist, we faced the impending darkness, teetering on the brink of despair and the flicker of hope. Whatever happens, he breathed, his voice steady, we must not let them take us as well. But as the darkness surged forward, a hollow void that consumed everything in its path, uncertainty wrenched my heart. Would we collapse into the very shadows we sought to escape? Or would we find the strength to confront the malevolence that loomed? The answer lay suspended in the air, heavy with unfulfilled questions, as the darkness prepared to engulf us entirely. The world around us shifted, the shadows responding eagerly to the swirling chaos of fear they had induced. The figure that stepped forward from the murky depths of darkness was a nightmarish specter, its form shifting and blurring, the edges never quite solid. The soft sobs that had once filled the barn were now drowned out by the sinister laughter that echoed through the air, a sound that painted the interior of the barn in a hue of terror. "Who are you?" I shouted, desperate to draw strength from words, though each syllable felt faint against the consuming darkness, but the figure merely chuckled, a sound layered with a sinister confidence. "We are the forgotten," it hissed, the voice slithering into my ears like oil. "And you, children, are but pawns in a game far older than your fragile hearts can comprehend." The rancher stood beside me, a raw sense of determination etched into his features despite the terror that seeped from our surroundings. "Leave them alone. They don't belong to you." He stepped forward, defiance burning in his eyes, but the darkness only smiled wider, malevolently alive. As the shadows lunged toward us, I felt a cold wave of hopelessness wash over me, pulling at my legs as if the very earth sought to swallow me whole. "We can't fight it," I cried, panic threatening to choke my voice. "It's too strong." But a flicker of something, an ember of hope ignited in the back of my mind. The ethereal girl, lost but persistent, flickered through my thoughts. "Remember the laughter," I whispered, almost to myself. The joy that remains in that moment of clarity. I reconnected to the essence of those trapped souls, the hurt countered by every fleeting memory of happiness that swelled between the shadows. I could feel the warmth of their memories, a children's laughter echoing sweetly amidst the fear. The rancher followed my lead, our intertwined determination igniting like a firebrand against the encroaching night. He took a deep breath and raised the lantern, its flickering light seeming to crystallize the churning darkness for an instant. "If you're here, so are we," he declared, voice steady against the shadow's gnawing threat. "You may want to drown us in despair, but we refuse to let you take the memories." As he uttered those words, the laughter of children spiraled around us again, coalescing into a palpable force that radiated warmth even in the icy grip of fear. The shadows recoiled momentarily, caught off guard by the sudden recollection of joy piercing through the pervasive despair. "Hold on to it," I shouted, the breath rushing from my lungs as I extended my own energy toward the warmth, not out of fear, but with belief. Channel their light. Just then, the winds howled louder than before, ripping through the barn as if the very essence of our hope was being tested. The figure in the shadows scowled, its features shifting grotesquely as the brightness radiating from us began to push back the encompassing gloom. "You think this is enough? You cannot hope to." But before it finished, a surge of energy burst forth from the light, a brilliant flame that seeped through the cracks in the shadows. Heart pounding, I caught sight of the other souls, the ones trapped in anguish, flickering to life amid the burgeoning light. Faces held expressions both sorrowful and grateful, reaching out with hands that shimmered like starlight. "We hear you." They all seemed to whisper, voices weaving together into a powerful chorus that resonated down to my very spirit. "Set us free," the darkness roared in fury, thundering forward like an unleashed beast seeking to extinguish our hope. "You cannot save them. They are bound to me. And soon, you will be too." The figure screeched, as the light danced defiantly against the consuming void, but in the thrumming heart of despair, I found the courage ignited by a small memoria moment shared with someone I had loved fiercely. I squeezed the rancher's hand tightly. "They are more than mere remnants," I shouted back at the figure. "They are love, longing, laughter. Their spirits are fierce." In response, a flicker of light surged upward, embracing the souls trapped in the anguish of despair, and their forms began to solidify. It was as if their very essence was bursting forth, their joy intermingling with the air around us, creating petals of hope, flying against the winds of malice. And then, amidst the whirlwind of emotion, a chilling realization struck me like icy water. What if one of those souls was not meant to move on? My breath caught in my throat. What if the ethereal girl, the one who had whispered warnings and comforts, was part of this darkness too? Just as the edges of the ghostly figures began to clear, the laughter subsided, replaced with an eerie silence that blanketed the barn. Shadows retreated reluctantly, revealing faces once hidden behind sorrow. All eyes turned to me, to us, waiting in trembling anticipation. "What will you do?" The voice of the shadows murmured, hissing their challenge tantalizingly. "Will you choose to save them or will you save her?" And as I looked back at the rancher, the weight of the decision now heavy on my chest, I felt the future tremble on the edge of uncertainty. The weight of truth loomed like a thunderhead overhead, casting a long shadow upon my heart. What if liberating one soul meant imprisoning another? The darkness lurked eagerly at the fringes, whispering of choices yet to be made, while hope flickered precariously amidst the ruins of despair. The confrontation was far from over, and the next step hung in the balance, perilously close to my grasp, yet utterly beyond my reach. The silence in the barn was suffocating, a heavy blanket that wrapped around me, squeezing the air from my lungs. All the faces, both glowing with a faint light and shadowed by grief, watched me intently. The question hung palpably in the air, demanding an answer that I was not ready to give. Before I could gather my thoughts, the rancher, steadfast beside me, turned toward the waiting souls. "No one should be trapped. We must find a way to let them all go." His voice cracked with the weight of his emotions, but there was an unwavering fire in his eyes. "Can we?" I whispered, bewilderment clouding my mind. The essence of the lost souls shimmered in uncertain fluttering, and I couldn't shake the gnawing fear that my answer could change everything. A gust of wind rattled through the barn, pushing against us as if warning me to make haste. The figure in the shadows leaned closer, its tendrils reaching out as if tasting our fear. "Time is running out," it hissed, amusement curling its darkened lips. "Choose quickly, little one. Save one or condemn many." I looked again at the spectral figures, their hope shimmering like fragile soap bubbles in the fading light. The ethereal girl, her face a mixture of yearning and sadness, reached out toward me. "You must understand," her voice was a sweet melody amidst the looming darkness, "not every choice is clear, and some chains are forged by love, too." "Love," I echoed, my heart clashing with the sharpness of the truth. I thought of the rancher and his wife, hers a love that had steadfastly endured even in death, a bond far stronger than the shadows that threatened to consume us. But still, the weight of my choice tethered me to the earth, a stone dragging me deeper into uncertainty. The rancher suddenly stepped forward, the glow of our shared determination shimmering brighter. "What if there is a way to save them both?" he asked, hope threading through his voice despite trembling uncertainty. "We have to believe in the power of love. It can bridge worlds if we let it." "In theory," I muttered, fear constricting my thoughts. "But what if that's impossible? What if it locks one in pain forever? Isn't it worth the risk?" he urged, desperation creeping into his eyes. "What do you remember about your lost moments of joy?" The memories assaulted me, bright sparks of laughter, warmth, and love, memories that were fought fiercely for against darkness time and again. A sensation washed over me, the halfway point between fear and hope igniting the very fabric of my being. "Together?" I asked uncertainly, turning towards him. "Together," he affirmed, a chuckle escaping him, relieved just to have hope formulating in words. As we stood tall against the shadows, the specter began to flicker, the outline warping with malicious glee. "Together? How quaint," it sneered, tendrils of darkness creeping closer. "You are naively unaware. There is no harmonious ending here, only sacrifice." I squeezed the rancher's hand tighter, channeling my fear into positivity, igniting the embers of hope once more. "But what if love is the answer?" My voice trembled, but I spoke with conviction. "Our memories are resonant, stronger than shadow." In that moment, I heard the laughter of children swirl around us, vibrant and clear, infusing the air with a renewed vigor. The souls stepped closer, the warmth of their essences enveloping me, lending their strength. The rancher's presence surged beside me, robust like the earth beneath our feet. "Remember your lives. I shouted, the combined force of those flickering figures urging me forward. Let that love be a beacon. As we chanted those fond memories, the very fabric of the barn resonated with us. Light erupted from our shared consciousness, connecting us to each lost soul, an umbilical thread of memories pulsating with life. Yet, the shadows twisted in fury, a roaring tempest threatening to blot out our hard-fought light. You will regret this. The darkness snarled, the very shadows thrumming with malevolence. Then let fate decide its own price, and there, in the eye of the maelstrom of emotion and light, a chilling realization. Sliced through the warmth, the ethereal girl was fading, her essence fraying, just as I found myself trapped in her gaze. I had unlocked something profound within her, a glimmer of hope, and yet her form shimmered with fragility. Please, don't give up on me, I pleaded, reaching out, raw vulnerability carving itself into my voice. We can save you, too, but all I received in return was a sorrowful smile that seemed to stretch across the chasm of despair, one that bared the weight of knowing something I didn't. Just then, the storm surged violently around us, dragging me back into reality. You have made your choice. The shadows screeched, their dark tendrils reeling toward the glimmering light. And soon, you will face the cost. In that defining moment, I felt the foundation of my world shake. Hope mingled with dread, and the echoes of love became a haunting song, laced with a heavy price yet to be unveiled. The future trembled before me, poised delicately between the dawn of a new beginning and the abyss of despair. The decision loomed even heavier, and in the flickering light, I could only harbor a singular thought: what if the choice I made saved one but condemned another? The answer remained an unsolved riddle, casting shadows that danced ominously just beyond the light's reach. The wind howled outside, its mournful wails echoing the turbulence within me as I gripped the rancher's hand tightly. My heartbeat was a wild drum, echoing against the darkness that swirled and twisted around us, threatening to snuff out the fragile flame we had ignited. Stay with me, I uttered, half to myself, half to the unraveling essence of the ethereal girl. Together, we can bring you back. Her sorrowful smile haunted the edges of my awareness, a bittersweet reminder of the stakes at play. I could see her flickering form wavering, her features caught between worlds, and my heart ached with the knowledge that we might not have the time needed to discover the answers we desperately sought. Suddenly, the barn door crashed open, and a sudden chill swept through the air. Shadows danced with renewed fervor, and the malevolent presence surged forward, entwining itself around the rancher and me as tendrils wrapped like snakes. The darkness hissed and howled, hungry to reclaim what we had tried to weave back together. Panic bubbled within me, but as I turned to the rancher, I saw in his eyes a determination that reinvigorated me, like the very roots of the earth rising to meet the storm. We need to stand firm, he said, his voice resolute. Remember what brought us here. Our memories are stronger than they know. His words anchored me, rekindling my resolve like a fragile flame offering warmth against the bitter cold. As the shadows recoiled, I steeled my mind, trying to plunge into the memories that had tangled with my heart, the echoes of laughter from sun-streaked afternoons, the warmth of shared sunsets, and the peace that came from just being loved. The laughing children's voices merged into a single chant, urging us forward. With renewed vigor, I closed my eyes, allowing the chorus of our shared histories to merge into a powerful sound, a melody of life that intertwined our souls with light. I could feel the energy pulsing within the barn as we channeled our collective memories, the warmth hovering above the chaos like fireflies on a summer eve. Let it rise, I cried, desperation mingling with hope. Let our love illuminate the darkness. But the shadows surged again, howling with rage, a storm that would level everything in its path. You stand on the precipice of doom, it screeched, trying to invade our gathering light with despair. One must be sacrificed for many. Such is the price of hope. The spectral girl's form grew fainter, her essence slipping as she reached out toward me, a shimmering reminder of everything we stood to lose. Don't let go of your strength, she whispered, her voice trembling with vulnerability, stitched with an unyielding desire. But please understand that love sometimes has borders. What do you mean? I asked, my voice small amidst the chaos. Your heart will bear the weight of your choice, she replied, her voice wavering. For every soul that is saved, another will feel the loss all the more deeply. The weight of her words crashed down on me, a tidal wave of realization threatening to sweep me away. I could almost visualize each soul standing on a precipice, waiting for the follow-through of my decisions as they teetered on the edge of uncertainty. An ache blossomed within my chest, realizing I wasn't just carrying my burden, I was also holding the ghost of what my choices would mean for their neighboring souls. The rancher's grip tightened around my hand. You know that whatever we choose will ripple across time. That's where the narratives are weaved. That's the true essence of our love. As the shadows surged, I clutched the ethereal girl's hand, the warmth connecting me with her fading essence. I will not give up on you. I yelled over the chaos, determination rising like pure adrenaline through my veins. The spectral girl seemed to dissolve before my eyes, and my heart plummeted. You are stronger than you know, she breathed, the images of her memories swirling: schoolyards, laughter, and bright afternoons spent entangled in shimmering grass. Take us with you. In that moment, a flicker of emotion ignited in the rancher's eyes. A spark that echoed my own desperation. Let's reach across the chasm together. We will forge our own path forward. He shouted, words reverberating through the space. And before I realized what was happening, the walls of the barn began to hum, alive with the energy of our budding intention. A sudden light erupted from the ground, pulsating with love and memories of joy, threatening to drown out the shadows, threatening to snuff us out. But then, amidst the swelling tide of energy bursting forth, a voice seeped through the darkness, chilling me to my core. Time is a delicate weave, and you will soon learn the price of your daring hope, it hissed. Someone will pay, and it may be someone you never expected. Just as the shadow's chilling echo faded, I felt the ground tremble beneath us. The barn's structure began to shift, and cracks appeared along the walls, threatening to break apart the sanctuary where love had begun to mend the fabric of the world. I turned to the rancher, my heart racing, the weight of impending choice buzzing between us like an electric thread. The souls around us shimmered, flickering against the encroaching twilight. Would we succeed, or would my resolve only deepen the chasm between joy and despair? And as a crack widened to reveal the consuming darkness beyond, that question gnawed at my heart like a relentless husk, demanding an answer before everything as we knew it unraveled once and for all. The air hung thick with an unbearable weight, each heartbeat echoing my escalating dread. As the barn creaked and groaned, shadows coiling around us like serpents, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping through my fingers like sand. I met the rancher's eyes, searching for clarity amid the tumult. His face was a canvas of worry and resolve, the lines etched deep with the burden of choices yet to come. Whatever happens, we face this together, he said, steady despite the chaos. His clasp around my hand felt both grounding and maddeningly fleeting, as if the very act of holding on was becoming a flicker rather than a flame. But the sincerity in his gaze urged me to press onward. With every ounce of courage I could muster, I summoned the memories, the laughter, the warmth, the shared stories that wove our lives together. I closed my eyes, envisioning them racing through the air like vibrant colors, seeking to stitch together the frayed threads of space and time. Let us remember our love. Let it be the compass that guides us through this darkness. I shouted into the void, yet, just as the resonance of urgent hope began to pull the shadows back, something shifted within the shadow's heart. A fulminating anger boiled beneath its surface, escalating to a howl loud enough to shake the very ground we stood on. Foolish children. The voice echoed, laced with a malevolence that chilled me to the core. What do you think love can accomplish here? Sacrifice is the essence of existence. The spectral girl's presence flickered painfully, an undeniable tether reminding me of what was at stake. Her faint smile danced before me like a shadow itself, and I felt an aching longing to pull her back, completely rescue her essence from the grasp of despair. No. I rallied, even as the boyish laughter of children and the warmth of summer afternoons intertwined with a sense of insistent urgency deepened within me. Hold on. The rancher's grip tightened, and stillness enveloped us momentarily, as if time itself had paused to allow us one last gasp of clarity amid the impending storm. You have the strength to do this. We can face the depths together. His voice pierced through the cacophony, igniting an ember of hope amidst the void, summoning every ounce of our combined memories, I plunged into the depths of my consciousness. I drew forth every singular emotion, pain, joy, love, and sacrifice, pieces of the very essence of what it meant to be alive. This wasn't just a battle for the ethereal girl, it called on something greater, an unyielding connection between all souls intertwined in this tangled weave of fate. As I clung to that collective memory, an unexpected warmth spread through me like dawn breaking after a long night, illuminating my heart with poignant brilliance. We are not defined by our sacrifices, we are defined by our love and how we choose to carry those we have lost, I cried, the words bursting forth like a flood. The energy that surrounded us intensified, and the shared warmth pulsed to life, threatening to drown out the shadows at least for a moment, but as the shadows hissed and shrieked, their fury mounting, a painful stillness gripped our surroundings. The air grew heavy, suffocating, and the spectral essence of the girl shimmered, flickering as if being pulled on an invisible tether. Don't. No. My voice spiraled in desperation, clenching around the hope that still resided within. Time is a delicate weave, the darkness seethed, coiling tighter. For hope to thrive, something precious must be relinquished. As I turned back to the rancher, panic etched deep into my soul, the heavier weight of uncertainty fell upon us like a shroud. In an agonizing twist of fate, as the light surged around us, I felt a sudden shift, a ruptured beat in my heart that seemed to resonate with an internal scream. The rancher's expression morphed as he turned to face me, sheer terror in his eyes. The shadows danced around him with eager delight, whispering promises of sacrifice. No! I cried, desperation clawing at my throat. Not you. Then, the unfathomable happened. The spectral girl, her form wavering as if caught between two worlds, reached for us both, her eyes glimmering with an urgent intensity. You will have to choose, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper against the tumult. And your choice will ripple through time. Remember, the heart can hold both pain and love. Before I could absorb the gravity of her words, a blinding light erupted around us. I shielded my eyes, saturated with urgency and dread. It enveloped the rancher, his very essence crumbling into the fabric of the universe, a final act of courage that echoed the depths of sacrifice and love. It felt like an instant, yet engulfed an eternity, and with it, the heart-wrenching realization of the choice that had been thrust upon me. In that explosive crescendo, as light and shadow intertwined with desperation, I stood at the edge of my own heart, torn by the haunting weight of hope and grief. Time collapsed into itself, and the very air shattered with unspoken farewells, and with that, amidst the crescendo of broken whispers and luminous sorrow, the shadows began to reclaim their territory, darkening the edges of sanctuary. I reached out, teetering on the cusp of impending despair. The last remnants of the rancher's essence shimmered just out of reach, fading like embers before an overwhelming darkness. As I gasped for clarity, another revelation struck me deep within the recesses of my heart. A part of the rancher was still there, woven intricately with mine. But as the shadows welcomed the light in pure hunger, I knew the truth: the price of our brave endeavor was far greater than either of us had prepared for. The remnants of light slipped through my fingers like whispers in the wind, leaving me stranded in a gathering storm of grief and uncertainty. The last vestiges of the rancher's warmth lingered in the air, a bittersweet reminder of the bravery that had ignited the night, a brave but costly sacrifice that echoed in the hollow chambers of my heart. As shadows swirled ominously, a heart-wrenching silence engulfed me. Where hope had once flickered fiercely, now it lay smothered beneath the weight of despair. Each breath was a reminder, a promise unfulfilled, happiness disrupted. You will have to choose, the girl had said, her words echoing hauntingly in my mind. What choice could possibly justify such loss? Instinctively, I ripped through the darkness surrounding me, seeking any familiar tether to reality. I clutched at the remnants of the rancher's presence, desperate to feel him again, to hear his steady reassurance, but only silence greeted me, cold and taunting. You're still here, I whispered to the shadows, hoping against reason they would offer me comfort, solace from this turmoil. But darkness, like cruel fate, remained unyielding in its pursuit. I staggered out of the barn, needing the cool breath of the night to soothe my racing heart. The moon hung high, casting silver beams that danced mockingly across the landscape, illuminating the empty spaces where laughter once reigned. The ranch, once a vibrant tableau of life and cheer, felt hollow, each creaking board and rustling leaf a ghostly reminder of what had been lost. Just outside the barn, in the stillness of the night, I spotted a figure lingering near the fence line. It was Clara, the rancher's wife, her delicate frame silhouetted against the moonlight. She seemed ethereal, a specter drawn to the remnants of her husband's spirit, her expression imbued with a haunting sadness that mirrored my own. "Clara," I breathed, my heart aching at the thought of her own sadness, yet feeling a strange pull towards her. As I approached, an unexpected bond began to unfurl, a connection wrapped in shared loss. "That I feel him," she murmured, her voice a fragile thread weaving through the night air. "He is here in the wind, in the earth. He never truly leaves." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and the ache in my heart intensified. "He showed me that love transcends even the most sorrowful of endings." In that moment, a flicker of warmth ignited within me, tender yet fleeting. Clara was offering me solace in her own way, an understanding born from shared grief. I stepped closer, feeling compelled to comfort her, to lean into this inexplicable connection we shared, an intertwining of souls woven together by love and heartache. Yet, as I reached for her hand, the intensity of the shadows grew heavier, coiling tighter around my heart. A lingering chill snaked through the air, and suddenly, the spectral girl's warning raced back through my mind, a clarion call that resonated in my very bones. "Your choice will ripple through time," she had said, and I feared the reckoning it would bring. "Clara," I ventured hesitantly, gauging her response. "What would you give to bring him back?" The question hung thick between us, fraught with gravity. Her gaze drenched in sorrow and longing met mine, and for a flickering moment, I felt the weight of a decision that could reshape our reality, for better or for worse. "That I would give anything," she whispered, a confession heavy with emotion. "Even my life, if it meant he could return." Her sincerity pierced me, pulling on my conscience like a taut string ready to snap. As if conjured by fate's volatile hand, a low rumbling echoed through the ground beneath our feet. The shadows reverted, roiling like a tempest, threatening to envelop all they touched. I could feel the rancher's presence across the expanse, his love tangible yet out of reach, a delicate balance between light and darkness. "Maybe we can summon him together," I suggested, my heart racing with the thrill of hope, yet tinged with the dread of the unknown. "If we channel our love for him, perhaps we can bring him back." Clara's expression shifted to one of steely resolve, a silhouette of determination shadowed by desperation. "But what will it cost us?" she asked, her voice quavering slightly, eyes piercing as if she sought a definitive answer that I was unable to give. "Perhaps everything," I replied slowly, realizing the truth beneath my words. There was always a cost to balancing love and loss. The universe demanded its due. Would I willingly exchange my own essence to restore what the darkness had taken? That moment of clarity sparked a new wave of fear, a labyrinth that led further into despair. Yet, I caught sight of Clara, the ghost of a woman whose heart bore the weight of memories both haunting and ethereal. In that second, a rush of warmth slid through me, igniting the flicker of salvation that danced dangerously close to disaster. Just then, the shadows shifted, forming shapes in the corners of my vision, taunting us with familiarity. "You have lost one," their voices hissed, malevolent and whispering, "and now? What will you sacrifice for a chance to regain him?" Fear coursed through my veins, but alongside it surged a courageous defiance. If we were destined to face the darkness, we would do so together. Sacrifices be damned. We cannot allow fear to hold us back, I declared, my heart pounding in synchrony with the gathering storm. We owe it to him to try. The shadows surged, Clara interlaced her fingers with mine, the warmth of her grip a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Together, we began to chant, pouring every ounce of love into the air, allowing it to intertwine with our grief, a tapestry of hope woven from threads of longing and sacrifice. But the night responded with a shattering shriek, the shadows rebelling against our embrace. Suddenly, in the midst of our fervent plea, the very ground beneath us trembled, splitting open like the earth itself was demanding an offering, and that was when the truth hit me, cold as realisha vision flashing before my eyes, a glimpse of the rancher, his face tranquil yet shadowed by an uncertainty I had never seen before. "The price for your love is heavier than you know," he seemed to whisper through the breach between worlds. Terror gripped me, threatening to pull me into the chasm of despair, yet the rallying storm around us only fueled my resolve. "Whatever it takes," I shouted fiercely into the void, "we decide our fate." But just as the words left my lips, the ground ruptured further, dark figures clawing up from the depths, reaching for Clara and hungry shadows poised to claim our essence, and as we fought against the pull of the dark, a blinding light broke forth from the heart of the storm, a convergence of all that we had ever loved, a reminder of the cost we were willing to pay. As faces of the lost hovered in my mind, my heart raced with the fervor of sacrifice looming too close, and I realized we stood at the precipice of our greatest choice yet. What awaited us on the other side of this struggle? As Clara's grip tightened around mine, I braced myself against the storm, knowing the truth: what we sacrificed may not only affect us, but ripple through the lives of others waiting within the shadows. Before I could voice the worry twisting in my gut, the darkness surged upward, and suddenly, time itself felt poised to unravel. Would I stand strong in this tempest, bathed in the haunting embrace of sacrifice? Would love lift us, or would it demand a price far beyond imagination? The shadows roared as I whispered my final thought into the void, uncertain if it would echo back in return: "Please let love prevail." The air buzzed with tension, thick and electric, as Clara and I stood at the crossroads of existence, our souls intertwined in a desperate dance against the abyss. Around us, the storm reached a fever pitch, the howls of the shadows blending with our frantic chants, creating an unholy symphony of longing and fear. I could feel the earth tremble beneath my feet, as if it too was caught in the throes of our emotional upheaval. "Clara," I cried, panic lacing my words. "What if this isn't our fight to win? What if we're only feeding the darkness?" Her face was illuminated in flashes of light and shadow, and I could see the crossroads we faced reflected in her eyes: love and sacrifice intertwined, battling against the unknown. "If we don't fight, what then? We let this shadow silence our love, our lives?" Clara replied, her voice steady, yet edged with anguish. In that moment, I saw not just a grieving widow but a warrior, a woman refusing to be defined by her loss. As we continued the chant, the blinding light emanated from an unknown source in the midst of the storm, its warmth pushing back against the suffocating shadows. I could feel Clara's heartbeat sync with mine, a resolute pulse urging us forward. Each word we spoke, every intention we drew from the core of our being, became a tether to the chain of the living, a plea for the rancher and all the love that had once flourished in the life we now sought to reclaim. Then, as if the universe itself had answered our desperate call, a luminous figure began to emerge from the heart of the storm. I gasped as the rancher's visage materialized, a silhouette carved from the very light we had invoked. He looked both ethereal and grounded, his essence radiating an overwhelming sense of peace that transcended the turmoil around us. "Elizabeth," he said, his voice resonating with a depth of emotion. "Clara, my love." His gaze locked onto Clara's, and for a moment, the storm dimmed, the whispers of the shadows faltering in the presence of something pure and unwavering. "Please," Clara's voice broke, desperation threading through her palpable grief. "Come back to us. We miss you." The rancher's eyes shimmered with a mixture of love and sorrow, and my heart twisted unbearably as I witnessed this reunion so precious yet steeped in an undeniable finality. "You must understand, I cannot return without a cost. To tether my spirit once more, you must offer a piece of yourselves, willful sacrifices, not just of body but of soul. Only then can we create a bridge strong enough for me to come back." Clara's face fell, the weight of his words crashing into her like waves upon the shore. "What kind of sacrifices? What must we give?" She trembled, a flicker of hope mixing with crushing despair. "Your fears, your regrets, they bind you to this world the way they have bound me. Let them go. Embrace the truth of your love, and the pain associated with it, only then can I be free." His voice became almost a chant, the weight of every moment had experienced echoing in his plea. That I hesitated, my own doubts writhing like snakes in my stomach. Could I truly let go of the burdens clinging to my heart? But as I glanced at Clara, her mourning was mirrored by my own. We were stronger together. Would my love be enough to cut through the shadows, the shadows began to stir again, restless, their hunger palpable as the storm roared back to life. With resignation almost palpable, I surrendered to a wave of emotion. I release my regret, I shouted into the storm, feeling the dark tendrils recoil slightly. I release my fear of what I have lost, what I could lose again. Clara caught my eye, and there was a flicker of understanding, a recognition of the burdens we each carried. And I release my grief, she said, her voice gaining strength. I release the guilt of not being enough, of not being there when you needed me most. Each word felt like a knife carving away the tether from the shadows wrapping around us, our love becoming a shield against the dark. Yet, the shadows surged forward, furious at our defiance. They slashed at the fragile connection we were forging, baring their teeth, full of malice. I shuddered, feeling a bolt of terror rattle through me, a reminder of everything we stood to lose. Clara! I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. We can't let them drown our voices. In that moment, I felt a surge of warmth from within, as if the rancher's spirit was pouring into me, strength, hope, love, and resilience swirling together in a tempest of emotion. A burning light that rendered the shadows weak and retreating, if only for a moment that we must face them together. I wheezed, heart pounding wildly. Together, Clara. Clara took a deep breath, nodding resolutely. Together, she echoed, her grip tightening around mine. By love, we will shine. Just as we prepared to unleash one final, unified declaration, the darkness coalesced into a shape so familiar, my breath caught in my throat. Emerging from the chaos, the form of a small child, a boy barely old enough to speak, appeared before us. The rancher's son lost too soon, his innocent gaze piercing through the tumult of shadows. Mommy, he whimpered, reaching out into the darkness. Where are you? Clara's face transformed with horror, her sadness manifesting like a tempest of its own. No, not him. Her voice broke as she stumbled backward, the storm once again tightening its grip. In that moment, the stakes shifted entirely. The shadows whispered hymns of despair, feasting on Clara's raw sorrow, twisting the love she felt into an anguished memory. No! I cried, yearning to bridge the chasm that formed between them. We can save him, we can save you. But the dark tendrils lurched out, reaching for the boy, for his light, threatening to consume the very essence of hope we had fought so hard to summon. The howling winds picked up, drowning out Clara's heart-wrenching sobs as shadows clawed hungrily at her dream. I'll do anything, she shrieked, and it was in that moment, standing hand in hand with Clara, that the weight of our choice crashed down upon me like a thunderclap. I squeezed Clara's hand tighter. Together, I reaffirmed, but the uncertainty within me surged. The question of what we would have to sacrifice for love now felt like a dreadful omen. And with the rancher's son hovering at the precipice of two worlds, I faced the unending shadow with a resolve that faded into weariness. In the battle we now faced, our choices surged like a tide against the rocks of fate, relentlessly pressing inward, but with our love beckoning, I knew we had one chance left within us as the storm roared anew around us. Would it be enough to save him, or was our plight destined to take yet another life? As I prepared to pour every ounce of love into the tempest, the air trembled with impending revelations, and amidst the chaos, only one thought lingered, reminding me of my deepest fear. No matter the choice we made, nothing would be the same again. The darkness surged around us, a malevolent force clamoring for what little light we had left. Clara's face was a mirror of anguish and resolve, crumpling beneath the haunting presence of her lost son, a small figure flickering amid the shadows. The moment hung suspended, the weight of unspoken choices presses on our hearts like stones. Mommy. The child's voice echoed, high and desperate, sending a chill through me that felt familiar and deeply wrong. Each syllable lashed at my heart, a reminder of the love that had once blossomed before being swept away by grief and shadows. The spectral figure of the boy wavered, nostalgia and sadness wrapped around him like a shroud, the essence of love clashing with despair. We can save him, I shouted, but doubt laced my voice, clinging like smoke in the air between us. Would our joint resolve be enough to untangle the shadows that threatened to swallow his light forever? Please, I whispered to Clara, my heart racing to keep up with the desperate rhythm of the moment. We must act swiftly. If he's the key to breaking the darkness, we must unify our love and let it shine brighter than anything we fear. I felt Clara's determination surge as she steadied her spine, her grief morphing into something formidably a force that could confront the unrelenting darkness. Together, she said, her voice a steady lighthouse against our turbulent surroundings. We will channel our love, yes. He deserves to know how fiercely he is cherished. With a deep breath, I closed my eyes, trying to recall every joyous moment, every shimmering ray of light that existed despite the shadows. As the memories cascaded through me like a flood, the warmth ignited a potent concoction of love and loss swirling through the ache. I felt Clara at my side, her warmth synchronizing with mine until we were an inseparable force, two beating hearts merged against the frost of despair. Now! Clara shouted, and together, we unleashed the brilliant light of our shared love upward toward the shadows, casting away the sorrow that bound us. The winds howled, tossing around the remnants of grief like confetti, but we held firm, our declaration taking form in the light that only intensified against the oncoming storm. By the love that binds us to him, we choose strength. The child's apparition brightened momentarily, but the darkness retaliated in a fit of fury, shaking the very foundations of the barn. You think your love can stave off the inevitable? The shadows hissed, laughter threading through the air, mocking our resolve. You will pay a price, and a soul must be sacrificed. Despite the taunting, the fear cascading through me began to dissipate beneath the suffusion of warmth emanating from Clara and the memories we conjured. Whatever must be paid, I shouted into the abyss, we will bear it together. Our love transcends death. You cannot have him. The amalgamation of our voices surged forth like a gale, weaving through tempest and turmoil, each chord vibrating with the resonance of all we treasured: the laughter, the family moments, the warmth that existed even in sorrow. The dark storm began to waver, inching backward as if recoiling from an unyielding light. Suddenly, the space shifted, and I saw the rancher's sun flickered brighter, reaching for us, unfurling like a spring bloom despite being ensnared by darkness. Mommy! He cried again, a sweet sound laced with longing and innocence, and even as the shadows raged on, his tiny spirit fought back with fierce determination. Together, Clara and I shouted in unison, the word bursting forth like a battle cry as the very essence of our love unfolded a path through the shadows. We choose love. As we drew closer, the space between us and the boy collapsed, the distance beneath dissolving like dew under a morning sun. And then came the moment, the point of no return. Clara's hand quivered in mine, uncertainty mingling with hope, and the shadows surged to engulf us, tightening their grip with a swift ferocity, but our bond pushed through. Just then, I heard her voice break, her son's name. Oliver, I'm here, my love. Just hold on. She launched herself into the flood of light, reaching for the form of her boy, surrendering in that very moment to what was at stake. In that instant, everything coalesced: sacrifice, love, grief. The giant roar of the shadows intensified, splintering our fragile connection, but as Clara embraced the light, I felt every care, every ounce of worry pour through her into the space between us, an unyielding expression of love wrapped in sorrow. I stepped forward, fortifying our bond, working to intertwine the love we had created and nurtured with the spirit of the boy. Illuminated by love, we contend with injustice. I shouted, a newfound strength coursing through my limbs. As Clara's embrace melted through the shadows, igniting Oliver's spirit with warmth, my heart filled with gratitude, love sweeping over me in glorious waves. But in the chaos of reuniting mother and child, the shadows lashed back, a final assault that stank of fury. Your joy will bind you to this world, and in reclaiming the light of which you speak, someone will fade. A thunderous voice echoed through the barn, and I braced myself, knowing it aimed to feed on our fears and doubts once more. But Clara's light, brighter than I'd ever seen before, shimmered through the darkness like hope reborn. I'll sacrifice for him. I'll carry that burden for the both of us. She roared, defiance flaming in her eyes. Just as the shadows converged again, a momentary rift opened, a chance for him to embrace the warmth she was offering. Then it hit me, what if we can give the essence of our being itself? The idea surged forth without hesitation. We willingly offer the grief we've carried to bind him to us. We reclaim our happiness, our hope. Clara's eyes widened, realization washing over her as the tempest raged wildly around us, but within that chaos, there was something profound emerging, a truth that rivaled despair. Together, we can offer the shadows our pain, she whispered, awakening passion in her heart, and in doing so, weave ourselves into the very fabric of our love. But uncertainty loomed, a cloud overhanging what we might face. What about the price? I murmured, even as I recognized its weight slowly lifting, hearts igniting like stars marching into the sky. But within me was an understanding of love. In that ephemeral moment, we prepared our sacred offering, each memory layered with richness and burdens interwoven in each heartbeat and shared laughter. Let our sacrifice weave new life. We called, surrendering to the essence of what we so dearly cherished, the life woven together between our hearts and souls. A blinding light surged once more, moving rhythmically to the beat of our united spirits, pounding louder than the storm raging around us. The darkness clashed against it, roaring desperately, but we held steadily in the face of it all. An aurora of light flickered, the child's figure glowing with ethereal beauty as he neared us, and as we clasped our hands, the essence of our love superseded the darkness, finally tearing at the brunt of shadows encroaching upon the smile of love, the strengthening of sacrifice that spoke volumes to us. With one final push, warmth flowed from our hearts, boundless and unyielding. Oliver, come to us. Clara urged, and in that moment of transcendent clarity, we could see him begin to step forward, love guiding him home, and just like that, he was gone into the light that had been born from our passionate sacrifice, intertwined in the fabric of what once lived and thrived. Time seemed to pause, the storm of shadows retreating into the crevices of the universe, swallowed by love that pulsed alive in the heart of the heartbroken. The echoes of captivity, freshened by Clara and our collective spirits, fell silent. I realized what had once brought me to the ranch, what had once felt so painful, had become a testament of unity and sacrifice woven from love. This time, love had indeed prevailed. In that heartbeat of silence, I turned towards Clara and smiled, a smile imbued with both bittersweet sweetness and unwavering hope. The shadows had fallen, but their essence, the lingering pain, and memory forever hung, a marker of resilience. And I whispered to the wind, this humble sacrifice brings forth a dawn of remembrance that will never forget, the echoes of love, of grief paved through love and trust. The return of light engulfed us as the night began to fade, the future held luminescence anew. With resilience pulsing within, I finally breathed, knowing this moment was not the ending but rather the beginning of a journey still intertwined with whispers of the souls we loved and lost along the way. The barn stood behind us, a testament of the journey etched in timber and shadows, transcended by the love that would forever march through time, for in the end, all paths lead to love, a love that never truly dies, intertwined boldly across the tapestry of the universe. And there, in the awakening light and this new path ahead, was every heartbeat resonating, a reminder that even in the darkest night, love has the power to shine forevermore.